Hey everybody, CVM here. You might recognize me from very rarely winning the versus videos against my partner BBD in the very popular BBD versus CVM versus series on StarCityGames.com on the select side. And today I have something pretty special for you guys. We're going to be doing an unboxing video of Magic 2014. So Ignite Your Spark was the tagline for it. Chandra Nalar was the spokesgirl for Magic 2014, and there's some pretty sweet cards in it. They were very standard defining while they were legal, namely being the reprint of Mutavault and the reprint of Scavenging Oozes, and pretty popular Commander and Eternal card. But let's go ahead and jump right in and see what we can find, because to be honest, we're looking for money. Alright, we got 2014 core set. Is the third to the last core set, and we're just going to jump right in and see what we can find. To be completely honest, we're just looking for money. There are cards like Young Pyromancer at Uncommon, cards like Scavenging Oozes and Mutavaults at Rare. Really any of the Planeswalkers are worth something. Archangel of Thune. Cards like Lifebane Zombie were pretty format defining when they were in Standard. However, they're not worth too much now, but we're going to go ahead and see what we can find. There are some foil cards. To be honest, I believe foil Young Pyromancer is the most expensive card in this set. So really that's what we're looking for. So let's jump right in and see what we can get out of here. We're going to go pretty quickly through these since the majority of you guys should know all the cards. Well, the majority of you guys know the cards in these M14. But let's take a look. So Dismiss into Dream is our first rare. Not a very good card. It's pretty sweet and limited if you could get an engine going where it basically makes all of your opponent's creatures an illusion, and when you target them, they die. So if you had a repeatable targeting effect, it was pretty sweet. But unfortunately, there weren't very many of them in 2014. Banisher Priest is definitely the best card in this pack, and it's what I would take if this were a booster draft. I did quite a few M14 booster drafts, and I really liked Banisher Priest. It was one of the best cards in the set for limited, so that was kind of cool. We're going to squeeze some of these here. We got a token and our basic land. Let's see what our rare is, and it's Savage Summoning. So 1 green, can't be countered. The next creature card you cast this turn can cast as though it had flash. It can't be countered. A lot of can't be countered on here. And that creature gets a 1/1 counter. So not a very exciting card. Sarah Angel is by far the best card in this pack. I haven't seen the comments, and I already know Sarah Angel is just a very big flyer. Let's see what else we got here. We got another tip card, our basic land, no foil yet. Sanguine Bond. So this is a very popular casual card. 3 black enchantment. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So this is pretty sweet with really any of the gain life cards. Something might have lifelink that's pretty, you can swing the game a little bit. But in this particular set, there is an artifact that allows you to sacrifice creatures to gain 4 life, which was a very powerful combo with this Sanguine Bond in the limited format. As far as the rest of the cards that are in this pack, Accursed Spirit is a very good card, just an evasion threat. If you weren't playing against a black deck, there weren't really many cards in this set that could actually block a Cursed Spirit. Messenger Drake is pretty good too. Same with Seacoast Drake. Any of the flyers are actually really good. Fire Shrieker was actually really good as well. I honestly would probably just take the Accursed Spirit out of that pack, but Sanguine Bond is still a real cute magic card. In our next pack, we've got a Brad Nelson Goat token. Got a basic land and a Quicken. So just 1 blue, draw a card. Next sorcery card you cast this turn can be cast as though it has flash. So this was ended up being a very, very important card in the deck that won one of the Pro Tours. So Even Flock played a blue-white control deck and just cruised through everything using Quicken as a way to make his Supreme Verdicts and Planar Cleansings be instant. And this was just a very important card for that deck. To be honest, without this card, I don't think that deck would have been as good as it was during that time period. As far as the rest of the cards in here, we got another Banisher Priest so far. So far, our deck has 2 Banisher Priests and a Sarah Angel. You can't get too upset about that. Although draft decks will probably look pretty well if you just open a bunch of pack 1 pick ones, right? Let's see here. The next one, got a land and a Dark Prophecy. So far our rares have been pretty abysmal. This one's 3 black, Whenever a creature you control dies, you draw a card and lose a life. So that effect is pretty sweet. It's also interesting to know that this is an enchantment with 3 black mana. So when this was, some people tried to play this in a black devotion deck for the devotion cards that were in Theros, but it didn't really work out, and there were just a lot better options to use at that time. Most notably being Underworld Connections. It's just better than Dark Prophecy. Water Servant is a very good card. Let's see here. So is Chandra's Outrage. Predatory Sliver. Blur Sliver. One of the sweet things about M14 is that they brought back the slivers. Now, they gave them these weird, I don't want to say anamorphic, I don't know if that's the right term for it, but they just gave them this weird look that tried to make them look more like human-ish. And a lot of people didn't like it. Personally, I'm not a big fan of it. I like the old sliver look. But some of these slivers are pretty sweet. Predatory Slivers actually seeing some play in Legacy. So it's pretty neat when they print these cards just to try and revive an old tribe that starts seeing play in the older formats. Let's see here. We've got a Wind Reader Sphinx. So first mythic of the box. And it's probably one of the worst ones in the box, in the set, unfortunately. 7 mana for a 3/7 flyer, not a good rate at all. And whenever a creature with flying attacks, you may draw a card. So that's kind of cool, because it not only affects your creatures, but also your opponents. So if your opponent has any flyers that attack, you get to draw a card. But are they really going to be attacking into your 3/7? I don't really think so. See the rest of the pack. The old Sanger Vampire, you really can't go wrong with that. Hunt the Weak, very good card. Some removal, Recluse. So this is actually a really good pack. There's a lot of good green cards. Only one white card, but I still think Sanger Vampire is probably just the best card. The M14 limited format, the games tended to go pretty long, so you could probably cast this guy if you had him in your deck. But I'd much rather just have a Sanger Vampire. It's going to be more reliable. Beast Token, basic land. Come on, I'd like a foil. Nope, but we get a Burning Earth. Oh, so this card was very good before Theros came out. So Innistrad, Return to Ravnica Standard. Burning Earth was awesome. 3 in a red. Whenever a player taps a non-basic land for mana, Burning Earth deals 1 damage to that player. During the time that Jund and Junk Reanimator were dominating Standard, the Jund decks basically didn't play any basics. They only played like 1, maybe 2. And this card was very, very good. Then Theros came out and changed a lot. So Burning Earth just wasn't all that great. As far as the rest of the pack, Flames of the Firebrand is very good. So is Water Servant. Festering Newt. So Festering Newt is part of the Bogbrew Witch Festering Newt Bubbling Cauldron cycle. So Festering Newt's a 1/1. When he dies, target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 till end of turn. That creature gets -4/-4 instead if you control a creature named Bogbrew Witch. So the Witch is a black rare that hopefully will open in the box, so we can go ahead and talk about it along with the rest of the Festering Newts. But this was a really unique cycle of cards. They really haven't done too many card cycles like this. They used to do it a lot back in like the Mirage days. And as we moved forward into more current Magic, they stopped using cards for the most part that referred to other Magic cards in the set. But the Festering Newt, Bogbrew Witch, Bubbling Cauldron cycle kind of broke that monotony up a little bit with M14. Let's see here for our next pack. Again, we're still looking for any Planeswalker, Scavenging Ooze, Mutavault, Young Pyromancer is an uncommon. We got our basic land here. Archangel of Thune would be good. Lifebane Zombie. Oath of the Ancient Wood is not on that list of cards that we're looking for, but it is the rare we opened. It's just 3 mana, and when it comes into play, or another enchantment comes into play, you get to put a 1/1 counter on a creature. So pretty straightforward. Just one of those cards that does exactly what it says on the card. You really can't go wrong. Unfortunately, it's not very powerful. And I think that I would rather just have something like Nephalia Seakite out of this pack. So if I were to open this pack for a draft, again, with the Oath of the Ancient Wood in the pack, I would just take the Seakite. The rest of the pack is, I wouldn't say it's very weak. Divination is a good card. Steel Form Sliver's alright. Corpse Hauler's alright. But Seakite is just definitely the best card in that pack. what do we have next? So see here, we're going to do this pack a little bit different. We're going to go from the front. So Lay of the Land, Soulmender, Accursed Spirit is good. Giant Growth, Pillarfield Ox, 9 Zombie is pretty good. So far the black cards have been pretty good in this pack. And we've got an Into the Wilds. Oh, we got a foil rare. We got a clone. So we've got an Into the Wilds and a foil clone. So Into the Wilds is a 4-mana enchantment. Beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield. So this just allows you to filter cards off the top of your deck so that you're drawing gas more often. So upkeep, you look at the top card. If it's a land, you get to put it into play, a little bit of acceleration. Then you get to draw fresh cards so you're not drawing that land. So this card wasn't bad. It's not a card that I would normally first pick, but it's definitely a card that I would play in my deck if it had green in it in the limited format. Maybe like a 20, 21, 22, 23rd playable card. Clone, on the other hand, is usually it's just very good. 3 and a blue, you get to copy any creature on the battlefield. Really can't go wrong. We've only opened 1 foil so far. It was a rare. It wasn't a good rare, but it definitely was a rare. So let's take a look and see what else we can find here. Again, we're looking for Young Pyromancer, Mutavault, Scavenging Ooze, really any Planeswalker. Path of Bravery. It's an Anthem type card, 2 and a white. As long as your life total is greater than or equal to your starting life, creatures you control get +1/+1. And then whenever 1 or more creatures you control attack, you gain life equal to the number of attacking creatures. So this is definitely a good card if you are trying to go wide and swarm your opponent. But if you're not, most of the time they might get +1/+1. If you're playing against an opposing aggressive deck, it's just really never going to be on. As for the rest of the pack, nothing too exciting. I would probably just take the Predatory Sliver, maybe the Vampire Warlord, but definitely is a pretty poor pack as far as limited goes, unfortunately. Let's see here, we've got our land. Come on, Ratchet Bomb. So this was a very prolific reprint for the set. In fact, Ratchet Bomb was the Buy a Box promo for Magic 2014. It was originally printed in Scars of Mirrodin, and it was a pretty format-defining card while it was legal the first time around. The second time around, it saw a little bit of play, but not too much, because the format had changed quite a bit from, back during Scars time. There was just a lot of cheap permanents that people would put into play. But around Magic 2014, it was more so flashy, expensive spells that just looked to end the game very quickly. So you just tap to put a counter on it, and you can tap and sack it to kill non-land permanents with mana cost equal to the number of counters on it. So it's just a flexible removal spell that was colorless, so you could play it in any deck. See here, no Young Pyromancer. Unfortunately, we are not doing too well. So this is our 12th pack. We'll be a third of the way through the box, and we have literally opened nothing so far. So let's see what we can find here. Let's see if this one will be a good one. Foil Canyon Minotaur, got trolled by the foil. And then a Mindsparker. So there were a cycle of cards in this set that were hate cards. So it was the base color, and then it did something to affect the 2 enemy colors for this. So Mindsparker is the red one. It's a 3/2 first strike for 3 mana. And whenever an opponent casts a white or a blue instant or sorcery spell, Mindsparker deals 2 damage to that player. So the allied colors for red are black and green, and the enemy colors are blue and white. So this one affects the blue and white cards, whereas, like the blue one, the allied colors are black and white, so the blue one affects red and green, which is the enemy colors. So it was a pretty sweet cycle. Lifebane Zombie and Tidebinder Mage, being the black and the blue one, were the most prolific and saw an absurd amount of play. In fact, Lifebane Zombie, according to folklore, single-handedly was responsible for making it so that Brian Kibler did not do very well at Magic during the time that it was legal. And he celebrated the rotation of it by publicly burning a stack of Lifebane Zombies. So, a card is pretty impactful when it makes people want to literally burn it when it leaves. So we've got a Wolf token, a Forest, Door of Destinies. So this was a reprint, originally printed in Lorwyn. I believe it was the Lorwyn pre-release card, which is kind of cool. Comes into play, you choose a creature type, when you cast a spell of the chosen type, put a counter on it, and then it's an Anthem effect. They get +1/+1 for each counter on Door of Destinies, which is kind of cool, especially since it's in a set with slivers. So if you happen to have just a buttload of slivers and a Door of Destinies, games could get out of hand pretty quick. Looking through the rest of the pack, I don't see anything else that's really sweet. No Young Pyromancer. This is a pretty poor pack as far as limited goes. To be honest, I probably would just take the Volcanic Geyser. Actually, I take it back. It's not a poor pack. We have a Fireball. We would just take the Volcanic Geyser. Let's see here. What do we got in our next pack? We're still treasure hunting. So far, we are coming up blank on our treasure. And we got a Shivan Dragon, just a classic 5/5 for 6, flying with fire breathing. Really can never go wrong. I will always take a Shivan Dragon when I can. However, the interesting part is this pack has Opportunity in it. So, in M14 Limited, Opportunity was the best non-rare in the set. And it wasn't even close. In fact, it was better than the majority of rares. And if I were to open a pack, pack one, pick one, and see Opportunity and Shivan Dragon, I would have to think about what card I take. Opportunity was so good in this set that I could see a lot of people taking it over something even like Shivan Dragon, pack one, pick one, which speaks a lot for how the set actually played out, where a 6-mana draw 4 is potentially better than a 6-mana 5/5 that kills your opponent. Alright, let's see in the next one. Let's get us something good. We're going to squeeze it. Alright, so it's white. Could be an Archangel of Thune. Could also be an Ajani. Let's see. Alright, well there's no power and toughness, and there's no loyalty, so it's not a good card. It's a silence. Your opponents can't cast spells this turn. 1 white. You see it being played in some of like the 4 or 5 color Storm decks and Legacy. Just a reprint. Card's just actually playable, but not what we're looking for right now. Just an Opportunity, I take it. Sweet card is Brave the Elements. So Brave the Elements was reprinted in M14. It was originally printed back in the Zendikar block. And the white-based aggro decks were actually very good during the time that you could play with Brave the Elements. So it definitely helped out that strategy at that time. Alright, we're going to go ahead and squeeze this next one and see if we can find something. We got a Liliana emblem. Maybe we'll get a foil Liliana to go along with our emblem. Let's see what we can find here. So it's white. Alright, well we know it needs to have a power and toughness or loyalty to be cool. So it definitely has power and toughness or loyalty. So it could be... Alright, well it's Fiendslayer Paladin, so that's not that bad. So Fiendslayer Paladin was the white hate card. First strike lifelink, 2/2 for 3. And it can't be the target of your opponent's black or red spells that they control. So it's just a very good card. It saw quite a bit of play during standard time. I don't want to say it was one of the format defining cards, but a lot of decks were built with Fiendslayer Paladin in mind. Alright, well we keep getting trolled by all these white cards. Maybe one day we'll open an Archangel of Thune. Let's see here. Alright, we're going to do it one more time because that's fun. And red. Let's see here. It could be a Chandra. Chandra Pyromaster is pretty sweet. It's really what we're looking for. And it's not. There's no power and toughness. There's no loyalty. And it's just Awaken the Ancient. So 4 mana, Enchant Mountain. It's a 7/7 giant with haste. It's still a land. This card is... I didn't really like it. There were some limited decks where I might want it, like if I just had a bunch of Auramancers and was splashing white. But 3 red mana is a lot of red mana. As far as the rest of the pack goes, Shiv's Embrace is pretty good. Wall of Frost is very good. So is a Cursed Spirit. Just all these playable cards, but nothing that I want to leave home about. Or jump into a different color if I were to open them in a draft. Now we got our zombie token. We got our island. And we got Shadowborn Demon. So this card is very good. It's another mythic. Fortunately, it's not a Planeswalker or an Archangel of Thune. But Shadowborn Demon is very good. It was very hyped when it was first spoiled, and unfortunately it didn't see too much play just because it couldn't kill Desecration Demon. So one of if not the most popular creatures as the format started to evolve itself became Desecration Demon. And while Shadowborn Demon can kill any non-demon creature, Desecration Demon was a demon. That being said, stats are great. 5/6 flyer for 5, can kill someone that comes into play. And then on your upkeep, you have to sack a guy if you don't have 6 or more creatures in your graveyard. But once you get into the mid-game, you'll probably have 6 or more creatures in your graveyard. There's a Brave the Elements in the pack, which is pretty sweet. We have our Elvish Mystic, which is also awesome. And then there's Blightcaster, which is pretty cool too. But I think I would just take Shadowborn Demon out of that pack if I would have opened it in the draft, 100%. Shadowborn Demon is a very good card. Even if you don't have any other creatures in play, like you can cast it, kill something, and then they can't really attack that turn because you have a 5/6 flyer in play. Alright, what do we got on this one? A Johnny's Chosen. So it's a 4-mana 3/3, and whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a 2/2 white cat creature token onto the battlefield. If that enchantment is an aura, you may attach it to the token. So that's kind of cool. M14 had like a sub-theme of enchantments and auras to try and set us up for Theros block. And it really didn't pan out with a lot of the M14 cards. However, some of them were very good in Limited. A Johnny's Chosen was actually pretty playable in Limited. We still haven't found a Young Pyromancer yet, which is kind of odd, as it is only an uncommon. But we have seen like 3 Singer Vampires now, so I guess we're just on the vampire train. All Twilight all the time, no Young Pyromancers. We got a tip card there, basic land, and Thorncaster Sliver. So we're still coming up empty with this box. This is a 2/2 for 5, and Sliver creatures you control have whenever they attack, you get to deal 1 to a creature or player. So card's good if you have a bunch of Slivers in your deck. If you're playing like a constructed deck, you definitely want to consider it. However, I don't think the card is very powerful in a vacuum. I definitely would rather have something like Shock or Enlarge or Claustrophobia. Alright, where's the money at? There's got to be some treasure in here somewhere because we currently haven't found it. And I definitely would like to get something sweet. And so we've got the Brad Nelson Invitational card, Trading Post. It does 4 different things that all make the game go real long. 4 colorless mana. You can discard a card to gain 4. You can pay a life to get an 0/1 goat. You can sack a creature to put an artifact from a graveyard to your hand, or sack an artifact to draw a card. So this card is actually interesting that they reprinted this card because there weren't a whole lot of artifacts being played. So it kind of was just in this place where it didn't have very much to do. But the way the format was set up, it was pretty slow, and this dodged Abrupt Decay. So I think if there were a bunch of artifacts, this could have been a dominant strategy. But as there wasn't a whole lot of artifacts, it just didn't do very much. This pack has some sweet cards: Tusker, Molten Birth, and Quag Sickness. But I probably would just snap up the Chandra's Outrage, as it's just going to kill almost everything in the format. And get some damage in on your opponent, which is always good, because Limited tends to be a lot about creature combat and racing. Alright, well, we've got a Foil Woodborn Behemoth, which is nothing to be too excited about. And then a Pyromancer's Gauntlet. So these are Chandra's Gloves. And Inferno is just a gesture away, which is kind of a unique flavor text. But they cost 5, and if a red instant or sorcery you control, or a red planeswalker you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals that much damage plus 2 to that permanent or player instead. So it gives everything permanent plus 2 damage, as long as it's red, instant or sorcery, or a red planeswalker, which is pretty sweet. So this Volcanic Geyser would do 2 more damage. Unfortunately, it doesn't really do much by itself, so I really wouldn't ever want to play this card in a Limited deck. However, it could be pretty sweet in, like a red base commander deck if you had like a bunch of damaging spells. But outside of that, unfortunately, it's a pretty weak card. Got a tip card, got a basic land. Alright, let's see what we can get out of this one. Alright, so it's a green foil. Could be a Scavenging Ooze. It also could be a Garrett, Collar of Beasts. So we've got what looks to be Power and Toughness or Loyalty. Let's see if we got something cool. And it's an Advocate of the Beast, unfortunately. It's a common. It's actually a very good card in M14 Limited. It's a 2/3. Beginning of your end step, you get to put a 1/1 counter on a beast creature you control. So there were a handful of playable beasts that went along with it. And we've got an Ogre Battle Driver that just gives our guys +2/+0 in haste when they come into play, which is a pretty sweet card. However, I probably would just stick with this Chandra's Outrage out of the pack. It's important to mention that some of the colors in this set were really deep for limited, and sometimes you'd have packs like that have a bunch of playable cards for different colors, so it could be tough to figure out what you want to take. And Elite Arcanist. So 3 and a blue, 1/1. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile an instant card from your hand. You can pay X and tap it to copy the exiled card, and then cast the copy without paying its mana cost. And X is the converted mana cost of the exiled card. So if you had something like Fog, you could exile on this. You could Fog every turn for 1 mana. If you had something like Opportunity exiled on this, you could Opportunity every turn for 6 mana, which, to be honest, you just want to do. If you do it once, you're probably going to win. But you could put like Shock, Chandra's Outrage. There were a bunch of cool cards that you could put on this. Unfortunately, if they kill this guy before you get to use it, you just get 2 for 1, which happened a lot, and I didn't really like him because of that. So I usually wouldn't take him very highly in draft. Out of this pack, Sea Kite's definitely a better blue card. Phantom Warrior's definitely a better blue card. So is Claustrophobia. So there's a lot of good blue cards in this pack. You definitely want to stay away from Elite Arcanist. So we are 2/3 of the way through this box, and we've only opened 2 mythics so far, and they have been pretty terrible. We got Shadowborn Demon and our Sphinx. So let's see if we can get something a little bit better than these guys out of these last ones. I mean, I would even be happy with like a Mutavault or a Scavenging Ooze. They're not mythic, but they are rare. We got a Foil Tome Scour, and then a Zathra Necromancer. So this is kind of a functional reprint of Rotlung Reanimator from Onslaught. So it's 2 and a black for a 2/2. Oh, he's a human wizard. And when he dies or another human you control dies, you get a 2/2 zombie tapped. So this card was actually pretty good. And, you know, there was like it was a big part of a black-white humans deck that was played during its time in Standard, which is kind of cool. Oh, there's our young Pyromancer. So we definitely got one, which is pretty sweet. This card is seen play all over the place. It's in Modern, it's in Legacy, it's even in Vintage. So not very often do you find, you know, innocuous, you know, 2 mana, 2 power creature printed in a core set that takes, you know, Eternal formats by storm. But young Pyromancer is one that has been doing that. So this one, Jace's Mindseeker, 6 mana, 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, you mill your opponent for 5, and you can cast an instant or sorcery without paying its mana cost. That's kind of cool if they happen to, you know, have some sweet spells in their deck. Obviously, you want to hit something like Enlarge or Opportunity or a counterspell. But in Limited, you know, there's really only like 3 to 5 non-creature cards being played in the deck. Maybe sometimes a little bit more. Worst case scenario, it's a 4/4 flyer for 6, which isn't that bad. Sliver Swamp. Rise of the Dark Realm. So here's another awesome mythic. 9 mana, and we get all creature cards that are in all graveyards. So we need to take them all. It really is pretty straightforward, and it just costs a lot of mana. As far as the rest of the pack, we do have the Bubbling Cauldron. So this is where we can pay 1, tap and sack a guy for 4 life. And if I sack a Festering Newt, each of my opponent loses 4, and I gain 4. And I gain life equal to the amount lost that way. So again, this is part of that cycle we were talking about earlier. The rest of this pack is actually pretty good. We have a Pitchburn Devils. We have a Baloth, just a 4/4 for 4, a Shade, a Cockatrice, Molten Rebirth, and a Warden. So this pack is pretty sweet. To be honest, I probably just take the Pitchburn Devils because there aren't very many good green cards in the pack. But that's just me. Let's see here. We're still looking for a Planeswalker, a Scavenging Ooze, a Mutavault. Let's see, what do we got here? All right, this one's green. We have a Power and Toughness or Loyalty, so it could be an Ooze. And it's not. It's just a big sliver. So 5 and a green for a 3/3 that all your slivers get +3/+3. So it's really 6 mana, 6/6, which isn't that bad. That pumps out your other slivers. But it's not worth anything. Mana Weft Sliver actually is, thankfully. So you can set that aside. It just makes all your slivers tap for 1 of any color, which is kind of cool. Doomblade was reprinted in the set. Barrage of Expendables was a new take on Goblin Bombardment. Nothing else too fancy in the pack. Let's see what else we can get here. We keep getting trolled by these green cards. The white cards were trolling us too. Alright, so the next one is... It's a Planeswalker. It's red. It's Chandra Pyromaster, so that's definitely a good one. The namesake girl from 2014. We just ignited our spark and got a Chandra, so that's kind of sweet. It's also in M14, which is cool, and it's been seen play in Modern and Legacy even. Some of the Metalworker decks, or the Blood Moon decks were playing Chandra Pyromaster, the Painter decks, so that's kind of cool. Sliver token. You got the mountain there. Alright, this is red. And there's no power and toughness, but it's foil. So it's a Thunder Strike. I just got trolled. And blue, Jace? Nope, Colossal Whale. 7 mana, 5/5, Island Walk. When it attacks, you get to exile target creature if any player controls until Colossal Whale leaves the battlefield. That's pretty powerful. It does cost a lot of mana, but as long as you can actually get this guy in play and start attacking with it, it's going to be pretty tough to lose from that point. Nothing else too enticing in the pack. If I open that, to be honest, I'd probably just take the Colossal Whale and cross my fingers and hope that I can get it in play. Ignite your Spark. We already did. Give us another Planeswalker. Alright, we got black. There's a power and toughness or loyalty. Liliana. Nope, Siphon Sliver. It's a 2/2 for 3. Lifelink to all your slivers. Pretty straightforward. Definitely a powerful card. However, there's a Shock in the pack, a Sea Kite, a Colonian Tusker is very good. 3/3s were just like really big in this format, so they can attack through just about everything. Let's see what we got in this next pack. Zombie. Here's our island. And we've got a Strionic Resonator. So this is a unique card. Never really caught on, saw any play anywhere, but it has a very unique ability. So 2 mana, and you pay 2 and tap it to copy a triggered ability, and you get to choose new targets. So triggered abilities uses the words when, whenever, or at. So, you know, if you had a card like Young Pyromancer that says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, if I had the Resonator in play, I'd play a spell, pay 2, and copy the triggered ability, and I'd get 2 elementals, which 4 mana is a lot for 1 extra elemental, to be honest. It's probably why I didn't really ever catch on. Rest of the pack, nothing too exciting. There's a Shock. There's a lot of Shocks. That's why the 3/3s were so good, because they just didn't die to Shock. Alright, well, we're still looking for something really good. So far we got a Chandra and a Young Pyromancer out of this box. It's not all that exciting. Alright, this one is black. We've got either loyalty or power and toughness. And it's a Bogbrew Witch. So this is the one we were talking about. So 3 and a black for a 1/3. You pay 2 and tap it, and you can search your library for a card named Festering Newt or Bubbling Cauldron and put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. So it lets you search out those 2 cards that allow you to start building this chain where you can give things -4/-4 and make them lose 4 and gain 4 life. So if you happen to get them all, you're in Magical Christmas Land and you have a sweet limited deck. You can also build a pretty cool casual deck around them as well. The rest of this is not too exciting. Encroaching Waste is an interesting card that was in the set. Just tap for a colorless, or you can pay 4, tap and sack it to kill a non-basic land. So Mutavault was such a important part of Standard that Encroaching Waste, I imagine they put it in this set just as a way to try and combat Mutavault once it caught on. And unfortunately, Encroaching Waste just cost way too much mana. Having to spend 4 mana and sacrificing it to kill 1 land just wasn't a very good rate, especially since the other non-basic lands that were in Standard with this card were also, like, you also had Ghost Quarter available to kill them, so you just never really wanted to use Encroaching Waste. They wanted it to be Tech Edge 2.0, but it was more like Tech Edge never, ever, ever in my deck. Sapling Token, a Mountain, bam, Imposing Sovereign. So this is actually a good card. 1 and a white for a 2/1. Creatures your opponent's control enter the battlefield tapped. I've actually played this card quite a bit, and I love it. Unfortunately, it's not worth anything, and we're just looking for some money. There's another Young Pyromancer, so that's good. And a Mana Weft Sliver. Man, this pack has some sweet uncommons in it, and a Doomblade. Just like literally the three of the best uncommons in the set. I'll take it. Alright, we got 2 packs left, so we're hoping for Mutavault, Foil Mutavault, Scavenging Ooze, Foil Scavenging Ooze. Alright, I'll take it. Let's see what we got here. A Foil Swamp. It's not what I was looking for. However, Gale Rider Sliver is a good pull. It is continuing to go up in money, especially since a Slivers deck had top-8'd a Star City Legacy Open with 4 Gale Rider Sliver in it. So it also saw a little bit of play in Mono Blue Devotion, but it's just 1 blue for a 1/1 Sliver because all your Slivers flying. So it's a 1/1 flyer for 1 blue, which is never a bad thing. As far as the uncommons go, blah, the rest of the pack was pretty bad. All right, well, this is our last one, so let's see what we can get here. No Scavenging Ooze, no Mutavault, no Archangel of Thune so far. Let's see if we can change our luck on the very last pack. So we'll squeeze it a little bit. We've got a Foil Artifact. I don't know what that is, so we'll just look at it. Staff of the Death Magus. Oh, it's green. And it's got a power and toughness or loyalty, so it could be a Garruk or a Scavenging Ooze. And it's neither, it's a Witch Stalker. So we got a 3/3 hexproof for 1 green. This was the green hate card that hates on black and blue. So whenever they play a black or blue spell on your turn, it gets a 1/1 counter. So card is actually pretty good, but it's just not worth anything. So looking through here, it looks like we've got 2 Young Pyromancers, 2 Mana Weft Slivers, a Chandra and a Gale Rider Sliver, and then 3 awkward mythics. So we actually only got 4 mythics out of the box, which is very, very low. And this just wasn't a very lucky box, unfortunately. But I hope you guys had as much fun watching me open the M14 box as I enjoyed doing it. Even though we didn't get too many awesome cards, we did get some sweet stuff. And I actually just love the trolls nonstop that Green kept giving me here while I was opening all these boxes. If you're interested in checking out some of our other unboxing videos, make sure you check some of the videos on the side panel here, as well as like and subscribe the channel so that you get notified whenever we do have any new videos we end up posting and going live. So again, I'd like to thank you guys for stopping by and hanging out with me while I open up this box of M14. This is CVM saying goodbye and catch you guys later.